Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of BC Buckets. I'm Matthew Bruni, and joining me once again is Colin Mitchell. And Colin, today we have Noah Clowney, Alabama freshman forward, 6'10", almost 19 years old. An interesting prospect because, in my opinion, he's probably one of the more raw players that we're going to evaluate that's in the top like 35 or
Yeah.
so. Like we've seen some young guys, right? Cam Whitmore's young. Um, Obviously, Gigi Jackson's young and raw, but they're all players that at least I have something to hold on to, and I have a little bit more hope for them offensively than I do with Noah Clowney. So, what are your thoughts on Clowney?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it already. There's nothing that I really hold on to him with. He is a little versatile, but everything he does, I don't think he does better than another player in this draft in terms of the top, we'll say 35, like you
Yeah.
said. So, I mean, defensively, he can probably guard 2 through 4. If he gets more weight, maybe he could guard like stronger fours. He is shooting upside, but he's not a great shooter. He's only 54% from the free throw line. And he's a good dunker, but he's not a good finisher. So I mean, I think that's what he has. To me, there's a lot more negatives than there are positives, and we can get into those in a second.
Well, you mentioned the jump shot, right? And it looks good,
Right, it
like
looks good.
aesthetically. Aesthetically, it looks pleasing. But there's a reason he only shot 28% from three this past year. He's not a great shooter. I think he shot about 3 attempts per game,
Yeah,
but that
3.3.
happens when you play at Alabama and you play in that NATO system. They shoot a lot of threes. They give you a lot of green lights. He only shot 65% from the free throw line. He only shot, I think it was 2 mid-range jumpers all year. So we don't have anything else to go off of besides really the 3-point shooting, which wasn't good, and the free throw shooting, which wasn't good. So it's like, how much do we want to gamble on a 6'10" wing who probably growing up or, in AAU ball or whatever, wasn't asked to shoot a ton? How much are we relying on him to develop that touch from the
Right.
three-point line? And I don't love that. This isn't Gigi Jackson here where we have tangible, like, number one player in his class type of skill coming out. He was a fringe top 100 guy coming out of high school. And obviously he has the ability to develop. He could very well be a late bloomer and get there, but at 19 years old right now, I don't see anything offensively that makes me say, okay, this is how I see him impacting the game. He's a good athlete, right? 67% at the rim, which basically were all dunks, but outside of that, I don't see it offensively at this moment. Now, I do have to say, obviously, because what was my whole thing with Gigi Jackson was like in 3 years, I see it. Like I see it. It's not evident to me how Noah Clowney develops in 3 years and becomes a um, high ceiling player.
Right. And my comp for him is if his ideal role in the NBA would be like an Isaiah Stewart. And I hated
Mhm.
Isaiah Stewart out of the draft, despite him being drafted by the Pistons. I think I had him. I looked back whenever I was scouting Noah Clowney. I think I went 34th on my board, Isaiah
Mhm.
Stewart. And I think Isaiah Stewart out of college is a lot more refined player. He wasn't the athlete that Noah Clowney is,
Yeah.
but he also shot 84% from the free throw line. He also was more physical. He could play below the rim more. He didn't, have to get up to get to finish at the basket. So those are like if he's in the NBA, the things that Isaiah Stewart does well is he's able to make threes with a closeout or unguarded. He's able to guard occasionally guards, and he can also guard, up to 5. Obviously, he
Yeah.
plays center, and he's physical. Whereas the only thing I see Noah Clowney doing right now is being a defensive player that's kind of too light to guard anyone that's too physical. And if you can't finish outside of dunks, you're a short center who isn't doing anything special for me. And then not only that, if we compare to Isaiah Stewart too, the same height, but Isaiah Stewart's a 7'5" wingspan, whereas Noah Clowney is a 7'2" wingspan. So
Yeah. The As much as like I enjoy watching his hustle, his
right,
rebounding, I think to a degree, his effort overall, I think is good. You mentioned it on defense. I don't think he's as switchable as he needs to be right now. He can kind of block shots, but he's kind of stiff on the perimeter. He's kind of stiff even when guarding wings. He's not quite strong enough. And so that's where it starts. It's defensively, you have to really buy his ceiling if you're taking him in the first round. Like you have to really buy the defensive potential of Noah Clowney because I think that's where he can get on the court. Um, like you said, we always look back on like, all right, well, maybe some of the lower end guys that we had on our boards in past years that were bigs that kind of developed and came into their own. Stewart's a good one, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of guys that are just raw and never really worked out
Right.
in a lot of ways.
I mean,
Um,
you could even look at this draft too with guys who are raw. I mean, the biggest one obviously is Bilal Coulibaly. The difference between a guy that's raw like him and a guy like Noah Clowney is that there is elite skill by Coulibaly, and obviously they play different positions. Whereas Noah Clowney doesn't do anything crazy that I haven't seen other prospects do. Right, like the defensive versatility, I'd argue Derek Lively is probably better on the perimeter, um, like long term
yeah,
shooting upside. Derek Lively still, and Derek Lively I know is a lot higher on a lot of people's boards. But coming into the year and during the season at Duke, you weren't no one was putting him in the top 15. No one was
yeah,
putting him in the top 20. Whereas I've seen Noah Clowney, I think at 20 is the highest I've seen him, and that to me is shocking.
yeah. He can't off the bounce. I don't see it. The first step isn't there. The threes, he had some really bad misses. I think personally, I have Trace Jackson Davis, the center from Indiana, actually really high and above Noah Clowney substantially. And I look at that and say, all right, well, Noah Clowney's 3 years younger, right? Maybe
Mhm.
3.5 years younger than Trace Jackson Davis. So why do I have Trace Jackson Davis so much higher? And I think from a physicality standpoint, that's where Noah Clowney needs to get. Like he has to get where Trace Jackson Davis is, and it took Trace Jackson Davis to get to 23 years old to reach that point, right? If you're drafting Noah Clowney at 19 and you're telling me I have to wait 4 years for him to become Trace Jackson Davis, I don't think he's worth that pick at 32. Like if you're drafting Trace Jackson Davis because he can help you now.
Right.
And so that's where it's complicated in figuring out the age. I think Clowney does have upside, but how long you have to get through the first contract just to maybe see that upside and then resign him and then go from there. Like he doesn't have that one skill that's going to get him on the court to your
Yep.
point. And that's
Yep.
the problem early on there. So, for a comp, this might be niche, I guess, to only Spurs and Kings fans, but Chimezi Metu.
I haven't heard that name in a long time, and I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched a lot of his basketball. So
contribute on the Kings a little bit this year. But that's what I see as an upside. That's like potential there, as far as a guy who can kind of shoot, can rebound and defend, can do a lot of things at a slimmer frame at like 6'10" or so. So but it also took Chimezi Metu as a second round pick. He was a G League guy. He was a Spurs bench player for a while, and he finally kind of panned out. So that's what I'm saying. It's gonna take a while. Like
yeah,
somebody phrased it. He's spending 2 years in the G League.
yeah,
Bottom, like, and I'm not spending a top
minimum.
20 pick on a guy who's spending 2 years in the G League.
Absolutely not, because
That's
I don't think the upside is there. I don't see him projecting as an all-star, which is the only way. I mean, shoot, high level starter. I don't see him projecting as, and that's the only way I take somebody in the top 20.
Yeah, I mean, we're very much upside guys, I think, for the most side. I mean, even floor guys. It's hard because, like I said, I look at Trace Jackson Davis and I'm like, I see the ability to run to the rim, to defend the rim, set screens, smart passer, like those things. And Clowney might get to that point in 3 years, but at this moment, it's a risk. It's a
Right.
very much a risk if he even gets to that point. So, I mean, in 2 years, if he stayed in college for 2 years and was a junior, we might like. Who's to say in 2 years if he stayed in college he'd be a top 15 pick? I can't say that for sure. He has to get way more efficient. He has a long ways to go, and we'll see in the G League next year what he can do. But that's pretty much where I'm at with him.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. That's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Draft's coming up. Stay tuned for more videos. And also stay tuned after the draft. We'll have videos on every team, every pick in the first round, and give our thoughts on the player, the fit, all that good stuff. So be on the lookout for that. Thank y'all for joining us. We will talk to y'all later.